Hello and welcome to today's webinar in partnership with TNA Solutions, hosted by Packaging Europe. In today's webinar, we'll learn about how to address the challenges in the food industry with the help of a complete line solutions provider. So my name is Elisabeth Skoda. I'm the editor-at-large at Packaging Europe. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Packaging Europe, we are the leading intelligence resource for packaging professionals in Europe and across the world. Via our magazine, website, multimedia channels, and virtual and in-person events, such as the Sustainable Packaging Summit in November, we deliver daily news content, authoritative comment and analysis, case studies, and high-profile interviews with leading industry players, and we facilitate dialogue across the packaging value chain. So for today's webinar, I'm very pleased to be joined by Eric Gelling, who is Chief Sales Officer at TNA Solutions, and also Simon Hill, who is Group Product Innovation Manager at TNA Solutions. So let's take a closer look at what to expect in today's webinar. The food industry is currently facing numerous challenges, from disruptions in the supply chain and labor shortages to the increasing costs of raw materials and energy. During this webinar, I'll discuss strategic solutions for food manufacturers to mitigate these challenges, such as the use of innovative technologies to save energy and resources. And I'll discuss that with the experts from TNA Solutions. We'll then explore the role of solution providers and the importance of selecting the right partner to meet manufacturing needs and commercial objectives to ensure alignment with operational goals and enable helping businesses streamline their operations, reduce costs, and improve overall efficiency. We'll look at the benefits of partnering with a complete line solutions provider, which offers a one-stop shop for a company's needs. Before we get into our discussion, just a little bit of housekeeping. There are 15 minutes at the end of this webinar reserved for an audience Q&A, so please make sure to put any questions you might have into the chat, and I'll put them to our speakers during the Q&A. If we don't have time to answer all of your questions, I'm sure our speakers will be happy to follow up with you afterwards with any questions you might have. And for any technical questions or difficulties, please select the support button, which you will see on the left-hand side of your screen. So with that, let's head into the webinar. And I'd like to start with a poll for our audience to see where everybody's priorities lie. Let me just quickly bring that up and start it. There we go. So the poll question is, what is your top priority for improving production efficiency? And the options are reducing energy consumption, streamlining the supply chain, implementing automation, enhancing worker skill sets, upgrading equipment technology, or other. So while we wait for the audience to make their choice on this, I wanted to ask you, both Eric and Simon, why were you interested in asking the audience this particular question?
Yeah, so on that question, it of course relates lots to the products and service offerings that companies that supply into the food processing industry try to focus at and arrange their product innovations and new product development towards. So the question is particularly relevant with the changes that happen around us. We try to live in a more sustainable world that doesn't just apply to households, that applies to food industry as well, and indirectly, therefore, also to the equipment suppliers to that industry. We see a lot of need for automation, shortage of labor, which is a current influence from the outside, and it is very interesting for us to understand more about where the industry will go in this regard. So these are very important topics on our agenda, and we're very curious to hear from the audience where they will point us towards.
Thank you very much, Eric. Okay, let's have a quick look at the results. And Yeah, we have a leader with upgrading equipment technology, that's at 40%. And then we have implementing automation and reducing energy consumption, both equal at 26.7%. And then streamlining supply chain got 6.7%. Were you expecting these results? Is that kind of in line with what you thought the audience might say?
Yeah, I mostly was. Yeah, the upgrading the equipment, the technology. That's people generally though. You need to be very quite careful. Is it's not always just upgrading equipment or changing equipment. There are layout changes and or way you do things differently, other than just upgrading and spending money to upgrade equipment. But yeah, generally that's what most will always come out on top. Generally, most people will say their equipment's not no longer capable. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I wanted to start the discussion by asking you both, what would you say are the biggest challenges facing the food industry today from the perspectives of manufacturers and consumers alike?
Yeah, I'll take that one. We think today's challenge for consumers, and consumers being the customers of our customers, directly or indirectly, are facing very strong increases of cost of living. We read in the papers and hear from our customers that that influences their buying behavior. Some customers are moving to unbranded products. Some customers are moving to buying less products, and that is a trend that we see happening. We are being asked by our customers to come up with solutions for that, which we have. On the side of potential cost reduction, on the side of processing, we also see the cost of raw materials being used in the food processing industry, the products that are being processed, but also the products that are being used in the process. Both of them through geopolitical developments in the world, due to seasonal influences and the climate challenges. We see that more than in the past, customers need to deal with these cost increases and strive for more efficient processes. And there are several ways to get there. And like I said in my first introduction, the cost of labor and also the unavailability of labor is increasingly a challenge that we see, particularly around the let's say the lower end of the spectrum of jobs, such as simple tasks as packing products into boxes. And we see a high demand for automation, even in countries where the average wage is not very high. The unavailability, the challenge of the younger generation of people, they don't seem to be so interested in going in long-term relations with their employers. So this all creates challenges and calls for solutions. And then when you talk about cost of living increases, that is certainly a drive for looking at pack sizes and see if these can sensibly be reduced. And that is not just a way of selling the same product and slightly less of it so that you offset the price increase. But we also see that there is a health trend going on, initiated by the World Health Organization, calling for solutions for overweight challenges that customers have. And in the products that we deal with, confectionery and snack food products, these are typically not seen as the most healthy products. In the same time, they are enjoyable and they are ways to offset the day for a moment. There is a huge trend going on for what we call degrammage, so reducing pack sizes, also to reduce the calorie intake, and with that address some of the issue that what I heard recently, over 1 billion people in the world today have overweight, and we see that as an important development to counter.
Thank you, Eric. So we've heard there's a lot of challenges that the industry faces today, and that leads me to the next poll that we've got for our audience to see how you address these challenges. Let me quickly start the poll. There we go. And the question we wanted to ask is: are you working with your processing and packaging equipment providers to address these challenges? And the two possible answers are yes and no. So again, I wanted to ask why you were interested in asking this particular question.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. Like, a lot of times the customers, or our own customers themselves, come up with their own interesting solutions by themselves. There are a lot of clever engineers working for those companies themselves. But we also want to talk to the market, to listen, to find their pain points. It's not always easy and obvious as to what the problems are and the problems they're having are. So normally a collaborative effort to spend time to uncover problems and to define them well is what we need to keep doing with our customers, and it's what TNA is very well known for. A lot of operators of our machines in those factories have a lot of operator input. So they decide and tell us what we should change or what we should look into changing, and also their maintenance teams as well, to reduce the overall cost of ownership and reliability. TNA is very well known to listening to the market. So I'd assume most of these answers will be yes. But if there's no's, it's also because they're clever engineers themselves.
Yes, and as you predicted, the answers are mostly yes. We have 83.3% saying yes and 16.7% saying no. And you already alluded that that's kind of what you expected. So yeah. Okay, great. That brings me to my next question for you, Eric. What are the steps companies can take to mitigate these the effects of these challenges?
Yeah, so circling back a little bit about the cost increases, and the first one I think is one that position that's probably not the first thing you think of when you want to reduce cost, but that is actually to partner up with your suppliers, and not just equipment suppliers, but moreover the suppliers of your raw materials, your products that you use in your process, and come to terms on not just price but also the quality of the products. There's a huge effect on the quality of products towards the final product quality of the food products being produced, and the effect sometimes gets underestimated. What poor raw material quality can actually mean to the cost price of your final product. So I think that's really an important part of the equation. Look at raw materials and look at equipment price, not just from a buying price, but also from a cost of ownership or a quality perspective, and look for partnerships in your suppliers that last longer be able to develop a better supply chain of all of your needs. Second one, I think, is the cost of goods to consumers, and we are looking, of course, at ways to, like I said before, degrammage, so to reduce bag weight without losing the excitement of the consumption moment, and that there is certainly potential in that area. But there are also developments possible where we use just less packaging material, for example, to pack the same product. And the size of the bag is sometimes important in the marketing of a product. People have the idea that when they buy a big bag of something, that it's a lot of product. But even that big bag, there is a potential to reduce the plastics in those products, and with that implement savings that are both good for the cost price of the product as well as to the environment. That can be used in marketing messages as well. And then lastly, the shortage and the cost of labor. Like we said before, there is huge potential in the ever-increasing complexity of packaging and distribution in food processing plants, where more seasonings, more bag sizes, where for example, private label producers have ever-increasing number of customers and complexity in their packaging whole. There is a lot of potential for savings when it comes to developing and designing flexible solutions for seasoning, for example, or for running different products in the same time without the need to have a large logistical operation after your packaging and basically produce on the fly to load a truck to a customer.
Thank you, Eric. And another question I wanted to ask you, in light of fluctuating raw material prices, what risk management strategies can food manufacturers implement to ensure profitability?
Yeah, so I touched a little bit on that point, but let me dig a little deeper in that. I believe that long-term partnerships are really potential for addressing those issues. What we see are more successful customers. They for example, don't buy their raw materials on the free market, but they contract with their growers to have the varieties of raw material being grown for them. They implement quality requirements for the products and using in many cases agronomists also to coach their farmers. That integration into the supply chain and being concerned about your own raw materials that are grown by somebody else for you. When you contract with farmers, develop relationships with farmers, that is I think hugely important and helps you understand what is available in your pipeline, what quality is being produced. Yeah, that's I think the most important one there.
And you hinted previously at the current labor market challenges. And my question there is, what innovative approaches can the food industry adopt to attract and retain skilled workers? Probably a question for both of you.
Yeah, there's several. First of all, the plant environment needs to be a fine environment to work in. When we go back decades in time, plants were dark, plants were slippery, plants were noisy, plants were unpleasant from a climate point of view. So the obvious things can be done in that regard to make a plant a better space to work in. But also when it comes to the equipment design, for example, design the equipment to either have clean in place systems or make it very simple and easy and safe to operate them and to clean them. A lot can be done in that area, and a lot of expertise is available with equipment suppliers in our industry. And there is also further potential. I talked about automation in the packaging area, for example, but there's more available in the processing area as well, where you need to maintain your stringent quality requirements on your food products. And these days, sensor-based technology is available to look at the characteristics of your product and automatically adjust process settings to run steady on those parameters, rather than having operators tweaking the equipment all day and all night to maintain those requirements. And I think many of our customers will recognize this during the night shift. The people want to take it easy. They operate their line on the safe side, which means more stringent than required for the quality requirements, so that they're always good. But with that, lose efficiency in the process, that again causes a higher cost price, higher energy consumption, or greater losses than actually needed.
That's right, Eric. Yeah, we consider it being in innovation. We consider it the mental health of the operators. So your operators is what we care about. The managers of and owners of companies can sit in air-conditioned offices using Excel spreadsheets basically all day long, whereas their operators are down in the factory floor inside their office, which is where our packaging machines are. So that's their version of a laptop, if you like. So we design for delight, for ease of use, and removing repetitive tasks, really. Yeah.
Very important point, yes. And in light of all that, how can food manufacturers leverage digital transformation to enhance their operational efficiency?
Yeah, so that's again a step forward from what I was just talking about. Some people call this Industry 4.0. It's the umbrella of solutions that are available to processes these days to collect data. There's a lot of data, or there can be a lot of data available from your process, not just temperatures, levels, etc. But you can have camera solutions, you can have infrared sensors, you can have all sorts of sensor-based equipment to monitor your product and your process, collect that data, transfer that data into data that matters to you, and that can either flag an issue or help you understand how your process is actually working. And also there is these days better and better technology available to forecast required maintenance on your equipment, which can dramatically reduce downtime of plants. Unexpected downtime can be reduced by implementing those methods into your process. And these are developments that we see coming strongly into the food processing industry.
And building on what was said before, Simon, could you discuss a bit more the role of automation in addressing productivity challenges within the food industry, and particularly in high labor areas?
Yeah, that's right. So as we discussed earlier, so it will be vital in the future that automation takes over labor in the coming years. That labor is just no longer reliable. You can't rely on it anymore. So from a business resilience point of view, you need to start thinking about automation and starting to rely on automation. Thankfully, automation is not what it used to be. It used to be really sometimes less efficient than people doing hand packing or hand jobs. Humans were more reliable, but now it really has reversed. And compounded by the fact that Eric said earlier is the portion sizes for our most or worked in industries is confectionery and snack foods. Those portion sizes are being reduced continually, which means you have to case pack at higher and higher speeds, where humans just can't keep up. So the automation will definitely just be a mainstay, more or less. Especially high-speed automation. That's the main point. Is you want to be deciding on your automation carefully, because most case packers and automation solutions will be with your business for 20, 30 years. So you want to make sure whatever you decide to buy now, in 20 years' time, as the degrammage continues, bags get smaller, that machine will still be relevant to be used in 20 years' time, as a typical bag of potato chips of 30 grams make its way down to 10 grams within the next 30 years. That's the general trend, at least. So you have to be very careful at this moment to decide.
Yeah, definitely a long-term investment.
Yes, for sure.
And in the context of selecting a solutions provider, what key factors should food manufacturer consider to ensure their chosen partner aligns with their long-term strategies? Maybe a question for you, Eric.
Yeah, from a supplier's perspective, it's probably the bit of the obvious answer, but what we try to explain to our customers is there is a cost of a solution that we can offer, and there is value of a solution that we can offer. Also known as capex, the number of dollars, euros, whatever. As well as the cost to operate and to maintain the equipment. And in our company, we focus a lot on the highest efficiency of an integrated solution. That means high reliability, low waste, low maintenance or expected maintenance requirements, even if that's at a higher capital cost, because when we do our calculations from our end, we can see the obvious benefits for our customers. And so that's really a message that I want to keep addressing both to our team as well as to our customers. Do not get overly focused on CapEx, but look at our operational expenses. When it comes to selecting suppliers, the other thing I think is that is important is, are you working with a supplier that can actually support you in the way you run your equipment? Some food plants in certain sectors are starting up in the morning and shutting down in the evening. Those need day support, but more and more process facilities these days run 24 hours per day for a full week or for a period of 3 weeks non-stop. And that means that you have a different need of a solutions provider. You need to be able to reach that company during day, during night, and get the support at the time that you need it. Then there's a third category, I think, that can be important, particularly for multinational or global companies. If you have your processing plant in Asia and your processing plant in Europe, is one company actually able to provide service at an equal level at all your production locations? And as we see more and more companies actually being acquired and reaching into global structures, we believe it's very important to have suppliers that can actually support those global accounts.
That makes sense, yes. And my next question was, how do you complete line solutions providers facilitate the adoption of new technologies? And what are the benefits of such integration?
Well, being a complete line solution provider, so we know where inefficiencies lie. TNA traditionally, when TNA started 35, 40 years ago, it was just packaging. And from that point, the vision of the company was always looking backwards at all the other suppliers that do all the other pieces of the line, and you would have 5 or 10 different service engineers, 5 or different 10 project managers from every different company sitting around a table trying to figure out what's going on with these lines, these inefficient lines. So TNA have moved towards a solutions provider, a total solution provider, for that reason, because that's definitely what customers want. It boosts efficiency of a line, and it makes it much more convenient for our customers to be buying from us or a single solution supplier. The project management of a complete line is a requirement from many customers nowadays. So they will demand that you do the project management and install it into their factory in a safe and efficient manner, sometimes even without disturbing ongoing production. Sometimes you can't even have any downtime. You must come up with solutions to do that as well, to get a very vertical startup. But if you have a factory where you're commissioning brand new equipment with many different suppliers conflicting and disagreeing with each other on where the inefficiencies lies, and you have to sign off on a KPI basically, but you have to rely on a different supplier for you to sign off your KPIs. It can be very frustrating. So the adoption of new technologies within the line, we overall, because we can have the vision right across the entire production line throughout all of our divisions, processing, distribution, seasoning, packaging, case packing, we can all regularly talk together, speaking the same language internally with our customer to help adopt new technologies, of which there has been many.
Thank you. And efficiency kind of links with sustainability. And I have a poll question now for the audience about sustainability. I will start the poll now. And the question we're asking is, what aspect of sustainability are you focusing on in your operation? And the options are waste reduction, energy efficiency, sustainable sourcing, eco-friendly packaging, carbon footprint reduction, or other. And I'm going to ask you, Eric, the same, and Simon, the same question again. Why do you want to ask this particular poll question?
Yeah, we believe that that it's important to look at sustainability in the broader way. In Europe, in particular, we are very concerned about the energy efficiency of our processes, reducing the CO2 footprint. We see that more and more being communicated by our larger customers as a goal, not following just European and world regulations, but also going above and beyond those and advance at a higher speed sooner than required. So that's certainly an area of interest for us. Some of our processes require high amounts of energy, and that's a physical attribute of the process of, for example, evaporating water. Energy is used. You can't change that, but you can do it in a different way, and again, sometimes at higher cost, but at lower CO2 footprint. The other area that we invest a lot of time and effort into is the desire of consumers and our customers' processes to reduce their use of non-recyclable plastics. We believe that it's an important trend. I would like to understand of the audience, how that plays into their mind and whether we are focusing in the right direction there. And lastly, again, the use of raw materials. We talked about the process efficiency, but it's also much related to how do you treat your effluents, your waste. Are there further thoughts into either using the waste to generate biogas or for example, have solutions to reduce water consumption in the process? All of those we believe are important, but it's interesting to understand how they play in our audience's mind.
Great. Let's let's have a look. And we have carbon footprint reduction as a clear winner with 44.4%. And then we have eco-friendly packaging at 33% and sustainable sourcing and at 22%. And the others are at 0. Was that broadly what you expected, or are you surprised by that?
Not particularly surprised. It's. I think a lot of companies have over the past 10, 15 years already done much in improving the efficiency of their processes and looking at waste reduction, CO2 footprint, carbon footprint reduction. That seems to be the top point of the agenda. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And on the topic of sustainability, I wanted to ask you, what role does sustainability play in selecting technologies and partners for modern food manufacturing processes?
Sorry, that's one for me, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so a bit of what I already discussed. Completely related to the response that we got from the audience. Like if you have a food process going on that requires heat, for which you use gas or light fuel oil. Each of our customers are looking at ways to see can we get that energy from a different source, for example, renewable electrical energy. In some cases that's possible. In other cases that's more challenging. Some of the processes that we get involved with are over a megawatt of connection, and a lot of countries, as they electrify their energy consumption, are in need of larger capacity grids that are not so easily built. So there's a certain point of stress there. But certainly electrification we see as one possible direction. Another possible direction, which is an area of expertise in our company and myself, is the reuse of waste energy streams. There's a lot of low temperature waste energy that can these days be upgraded to higher energy levels and being reused in the plant. And more we see actually that we can run our equipment at the waste energy of another step in the process. And that is, I think, a trend that will continue to go forward even again when it comes to a high initial invest. It's reducing the energy consumption with that cost price of the product in the end, as well as address that ambition to reduce CO2 footprint.
Thank you, Eric. And I'd like to wrap up my series of questions to you both with the question, what does the future hold?
Well, that's we don't yet know for anything, but we know where we're probably going to end up. We know that running faster speeds with packaging machines is going to be required because of degrammage efforts, but also using less material at the same time. So we know that many of our customers have already reduced, along with TNA, their bag length by around 10 to 15%. A lot of our customers. Now that will continue. So those benefits are twofold. So you can market to your consumer that you're using less plastic, but also you've got a large saving of plastic as well, of packaging materials. So that's going to continue. However, running higher speeds with less packaging material is you're working against yourself, really. You want to use more packaging material to be able to run faster traditionally. So that's the future holds. That's the major problem for the future that suppliers like ourselves will have to overcome. Of course, CO2 footprint reduction in process equipment in particular. If you look at a typical potato chip processing line, for example, almost 80% of all the energy used is in the processing hall. Packaging and everything else is much less. So the carbon reduction in the processing hall will be will be particularly required, and energy recovery will probably become mandatory in many regions, recovering that energy in that processing hall. And of course, we talked about earlier high-speed automation. High-speed automation that will start to replace unreliable labor in many regions. That's definitely the future.
Yeah, to top that up, Simon, we think that the complexity in SKUs will continue to increase, and that in a world where plant capacity are being increased as well, perhaps more in Europe than in other parts of the world, but it's ever more demanding to have a huge capacity processing plant that is the most efficient solution that you can find. In the same time, being completely flexible in making smaller orders for smaller customers, more different seasonings, more different cut sizes, more different pack sizes, and running all that in parallel or in short production runs, and being flexible enough to swap from one product to the other or run several products in parallel, and without ending up with huge storages full of product that then need to be either repacked or reorganized to meet the needs of customers. And that, I think, the packaging and post-packaging processes in food plants will continue to increase in complexity and in automation needs. I think that's a trend that will continue to go forward.
Yeah, thank you both, Eric and Simon. Yeah, sounds like we're looking towards a complex future, but TNA is ready for it and helping to provide solutions for that. Yeah, that brings us to the end of the discussion part of this session. Thank you very much, Eric and Simon, and thank you everybody for your attention so far. We're now moving to the audience Q&A section, and I can see we already had some great questions coming through, but obviously keep them coming, and you can submit them at any time until the end of the webinar. If we don't manage to get through all of your questions, I'm sure the team will be very happy to follow up with you afterwards anyway. So keep the questions coming. So I wanted to start with this question, which is, how can packaging technology help maintain product quality while optimizing production?
Well, reduction in waste is one of the majors there with packaging machines and technology. TNA have always been leading the way in reduction of waste and maintaining high speeds because of the patented rotary jaw system that TNA have had developed, but from there they've continued to push the boundaries, and now even the current range of machine is still the most efficient with the least amount of waste at the highest speeds possible. Low breakage is also a concern, so product quality directly. So things like tortilla chips or breadsticks, damaging those whilst you're packing those at high speed can be challenging, or it can be easy to do, to damage those and break those corners off a tortilla chip, for example. The TNA have optimized a lot of our packaging machinery to reduce that. And as Eric said earlier about consumers demanding more choice, so more and more choice of different flavors, different products, different bag weights, the mix and matrix of a lot of our customers end up with being forced to do many changeovers on their packaging machines. The ease and speed of changeovers is also crucial. A lot of packaging machines that are difficult to change over, you end up with a lot of errors during changeover and issues that directly impact the quality of the product. So they can have recalls of the wrong barcode used or wrong date code used on the bag maker set up incorrectly, straight into production with a lot of unsealed bags, as an example. That's a major problem of waste and downtime is from incorrect setup procedures. And thankfully, TNA, we focused on that very carefully for single-minute changeovers. That's another important aspect.
Great, thank you, Simon. And another question we had come through. How are emerging consumer preferences for sustainability and ethical sourcing shaping the development of new packaging materials and formats?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time on this topic. In fact, I was at the Packaging Europe Sustainability Summit in Amsterdam just last year. We spent a lot of time there talking to a lot of our customers who were there, a lot of other suppliers, and a lot of just consumers and of general interest. There's a lot of wide-ranging opinions there, and the mix of the conversation is ongoing. It's not finished by any stretch. It's still ongoing. And TNA are fitting inside that conversation as being part of it. At least we're not ignoring it. We're being part of it, and saying and listening to our customers who listen to their customers about what they're demanding. So things like biodegradable films and paper replacing plastic, as an example, that has got its challenges. So in machining that and running those films, it is more difficult. Lower speeds can be expected. However, also the lower shelf life as well. Things like snack foods, for example, you're getting anywhere over 10 or even 12 weeks shelf life on paper films is virtually impossible because of the oxygen barrier. It's just not there. So a lot of food packaging that's already been tainted by food and put into a recycle bin, for example, and then into a garbage truck or wherever, that can pretty much never make its way back into contact with food, or it shouldn't, because it's unsanitary completely. So the CFlex guidelines in Europe, 2 years ago released, they have already approved food monomaterial packaging, which is for potato chips films, for example, to be collected across Europe and recycled, but only recycled back into plastic that can be used in plastic car covers, for example, or fridge doors, that type of stuff, where it's not back into food contact again. The other interesting point is what a lot of our customers are saying is that there is a move back towards pillow bags. So a standard pillow bag will be able to hold the same amount of product with a lot less packaging materials compared to a typical stand-up doy with zips or pouches, or quattro block bottoms, for example, which have better shelf presence, stand-up ability, which is what a lot of our customers felt that they needed. However, that trend is changing. A lot of consumers see those bags as wasteful of plastic. There's just so much plastic with these square corners and block bottom foldings. So there is interesting, the consumer preference is that we actually picked that up during the conference. That consumer preference of distaste towards the company that used all that excess plastic just to get my attention to sell me this product. That was an interesting thing that I took away with me. So there will be a trend towards pillow bags, which is good because the industry, you can run pillow bags at the fastest speed. You can run them 2 or 3 times faster, much more efficient. So that trend will help our customers along, I think.
Thank you, Simon. And on the topic of packaging and packaging waste, somebody's asking, packaging protects food for the global community, but will there be a trade-off when we try to remove packaging to, I guess he means in order to save on materials used. So will there be an adverse impact to the environment by
I think a lot of products actually don't need packaging. It is wasteful. So nuts and seeds, cereals, that could make its way back to not needing any packaging. So in store, people bring their own container, fill up with nuts and seeds, and then go home with it. That's already happening in small isolated places. That's happening. So that there could be an adverse impact of that. That's not ideal. There's a reason everyone moved towards putting nuts into a bag, for example. It's less sanitary and less difficult to control the shelf life. But yes, there is an adverse effect. Yeah.
The other thing that I see there is a lot of it is actually consumer desired change. So when you look in today's supermarket, the shelves with fresh vegetables unpacked is ever shrinking, whereas the fridges with pre-cut and washed vegetables is ever increasing. It's convenience that most of the customers want, and as a trade-off, you get packaged products because washed and pre-cut vegetables have a very short shelf life. Some consumers are moving away from that by choice, going back to free markets, buying locally from a farmer, etc. So there is a certain counter trend, but the food industry, I guess, is doing what consumers want, and that is choice for convenience, and within that choice for convenience, companies that operate in the packaging industry can just look at, okay, how do we reduce the impact of the plastic? Does there need to be a tray inside of a bag? The volume of plastic and the amount of plastic can be reduced. But to get rid of the packaging altogether, in many cases, that's not possible without losing the convenience factor.
Yeah, that makes sense. And somebody else is asking about the trend to replace plastics in Europe. I guess he means maybe replace with paper or other packaging materials. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that would largely depend on the product that you're trying to protect with that paper. So, like I said, flour and sugar is already protected well with paper and wax-based solutions. Trying to protect other perishable foods is just tricky. There are solutions and there are opportunities for solutions there, but those solutions haven't yet hit the mainstream, especially since like I said, with the C-Flex guidelines of collection of paper pack or plastic packaging in Europe, that's already European Union's already moving its big engine towards recycling a collection of flexible plastic packaging. So the trend isn't really, it did start, don't get me wrong, 3 or 4 years ago, it really went hard. But we do see that as it kind of is finding its way into the non-perishable foods, at least for now. That's where it ended up at the moment.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, and I think we have time for another question. Somebody's asking, where do you see the future of collaborative robots in packaging activities in the F&B industry?
I guess that depends on the job to be done. So collaborative robots working alongside humans. Yeah, if you can rely on that human to be there, then yes, you could put a robot beside that human to help them out to do that job. Depends what it is. Case packing large boxes of cans of soda, for example, the food and beverage industry. That's difficult and hard for humans to do, but if it's assisted by a robot, then perhaps that would be useful. In the food and beverage industry, it really is set up for true automation. Most companies, when they use humans, they just use humans. Don't really need the help of robots generally, unless there are small use cases, but it's less and less. I think that's to answer the question. The future of collaborative robots, we had looked into them previously, but we did sort of just question why it would need to be collaborative. Why wouldn't it just be a robot? Why do you need to have a robot beside a human? That's how I would answer that.
Yeah, great.
Great, thank you. I would say with that, it's time to wrap up today's webinar. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you very much, Simon and Eric, for answering my questions today and the audience questions today. Yeah, this webinar will be available on demand within the next couple of days, and you'll be sent a link to access it in case you want to recap on anything you've seen in this session. And if you're watching this webinar on demand and you have any questions for Simon and Eric, feel free to reach out. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any extra questions you might have. So yeah, that just leaves me once again to thank our two experts, Eric Gelling and Simon Hill, for being here today, and thank you everybody for your